Hey everyone, you're tuned into InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy. Join us as we talk about anything.
And everything.
All the stuff that makes life interesting.
So let's get to it. Red leather, yellow leather. Red leather.
It's red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather.
It's red. Is that what it is?
Are you recording?
Is this record? Oh, I think it is. You're listening to InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy. No. You gotta stop it.
No, we're not. No, this
we have to
this is our 100th.
People got our vocal
This is our 100th episode.
All right.
This
Okay.
is the way it's
you were
gonna
privy
go.
to our antics that happened before the recording, but now they're in. They're in forever, all eternity.
Are you okay? Do you really want me to stop? Because I will.
No, we're good.
Okay, are you sure? Okay, good.
Well,
All right, let's
we're
go.
at 100. Did you ever think we would make it to 100 episodes?
I don't know. But I. Excuse me.
Are you like,
But
what's the right answer here?
I wasn't sure. I thought for sure, like, we would make it to 30 at least. Maybe 50.
Why 30? Like,
I don't
is that
know. It's just an
arbitrary?
arbitrary number. Like, I just thought we would do more than 15, maybe, and then maybe we get to 30. I think that was like the grand goal that I thought we would reach.
I'm really proud of us because
Yeah.
I don't normally when I have a hobby, I don't stick with it for 2+ years.
This is true. What are some of the hobbies that you've taken
Well,
on and
that's
then
not-
abandoned?
Well, let's just not go there in this episode.
All right. That makes sense.
What we promised in this episode is to talk about our top tips from our first 100 episodes. And I say first because we still have lots of episodes to come.
And not just the tips, though.
No,
We're going to talk about
just-
everything. But here, I want to officially say this, though. It is our 100th episode. We have had so many words said on this podcast. We've talked about billions of different, well, maybe not billions, maybe thousands of different topics. Well,
No.
what? I wonder.
Probably 100 topics.
Probably 100 top. No, but like I just
I know what
mean
you're
the things that we talked about within the podcast. But my favorite thing about doing this podcast is doing it with you.
Aw.
It's true. I love doing this with you. It's good. It's good quality time together that we share with everybody that wants to listen.
No, it is great. It's a
It's really
time when
nice.
you're, for fellow podcasters listening out there, it's a time you sit down and you're really just spending the time dedicated to a conversation. And
Yeah.
there are no distractions. You're not checking your phone. You're not doing anything else but concentrating on the conversation. And
Yeah.
that's
And
one of the things that I love about it. And I enjoy doing it with you too, hon.
I know. It's great. It's great. It's good. It's good quality time. I also wanted to take this opportunity now that it's our 100th episode that I wanted to thank you for doing the research for 99 of those episodes.
Well, yes.
I mean, honestly, this podcast would go nowhere without you. It would just be me and you just talking and me just not even just going on tangents.
Well,
we
thank
do
you
that
for doing
anyway.
the research for that episode.
And it's
I think
that
it was
one-
episode 3.
episode 3 where I talked about record collecting.
So we're going
That's
to
our
go
most
through
listened to
our before we
Wrong.
get too we're way off topic, but who cares?
Okay.
It's 100 episodes.
Yeah, I know we got a lot to cover, people.
We
So
wanted to give you the highlights, the
strap in.
top tips, the ones that are the most talked about, and frankly, just the ones I guess I thought were the best tips. And I'm going to go back to the beginning, back when I thought the title of a podcast episode needed to be clickbait. So our initial episode was called Between the Sheets
That's
with Jeff and
right.
Amy.
You know what? It's still clickbaity. I mean, there's nothing wrong with clickbait.
Oh, it still is.
When
I
it's
just-
a good thing. When it's
I-
a good product in the end.
I just moved away from
That is so funny, Between the Sheets. Obviously, that wasn't about what happens between the sheets.
No,
What
we
was it
did. We did
about?
talk about making beds and such. But the top
Oh,
tip
yes,
I
that's what
have
it
from
was.
that one is around cans. So I think just about everybody would have tin cans in their home. Or canned food.
I don't even remember this. So what was the
It was
tip
100
about?
episodes ago.
What was the tip about cans?
So I had a colleague who told me that years ago he worked in a warehouse,
Yeah.
and he talked about the fact that their warehouses can often be ridden with rats and vermin, and they would poop on top of the cans.
I do remember
And so he
this.
said ever since he had that job, he always opens cans from the bottom.
Right.
So even if you think about cans being stored in the grocery store, they always store them, of course, so that the label is straight up so people can read it
Yeah.
easily. But same thing. I'm sure that there are mice and things that scurry about in the night once the grocery store lights go down. So
Yes.
flip
You
over
could
your
take that.
can and open it from the bottom, and it'll be a little cleaner, a little less covered in feces. And you could
A
also
little
take
less covered.
you could take some time to wash it too.
You could take.
But nobody has time to wash cans, so just open it from the bottom and be.
That's right. You could take that to the next level too, and do it with your cans of Pepsi and stuff. You know, we're not even sponsored by Pepsi, but I did say the word Pepsi.
How would you open a
podcast.
can of Pepsi from
That's
the
what
bottom?
I mean. You could just get a can opener and just open her up, pour it into a glass.
Yeah, with that really sharp metal edge that
I'm joking.
I don't know how that would work.
That would be funny.
You're joking. Another tip from that episode, I think it was from that episode, and this is one of my favorite tips. If you like chips, potato chips, and you like to have a lot of flavor, open them from the bottom.
I love that you do this, but I
Well,
just
it's
do not.
because-
I just do not understand.
It's because on the store shelf, same thing with the cans, chip bags are stored right side up, and all of the seasoning, everything
But
all
how long
settles
does
to
it
the
take
bottom.
you to eat a bag of chips?
Well, what do you mean? But when I open
Well, I just mean you're eventually going to get to that flavor. Is what my
I
point is.
know, but if you open it upside down, then the stuff that gathered on the bottom gets all distributed amongst the chips as you're eating them.
so it's just copious amounts of flavor just on those particular chips.
Well, instead of eating a bunch of naked chips and getting to the bottom and just scooping up a bunch of seasoning,
Naked chips.
it's distributed. It's a great tip. I think it's one of the best tips.
I don't get it.
So open your chip bags or whatever other bagged goods you have that have flavoring in them, and I open them upside down. And it also just drives your spouse nuts.
It does drive me nuts. Would you do that with a bag of croutons? Even though it's all
Well,
the
no,
same
because they
flavor?
have like the Ziploc. No, croutons are pretty good at keeping their flavor
It's
attached to them. And I also can't remember the last time I ate a bag of croutons.
Or you
but-
wouldn't do it with a bag of like Tostitos where it's just there's no flavor, right?
Well, I
There's salt. You love salt.
well, it's just a matter if it's something that the stuff gathers at the bottom.
That's true. It is a good
Right.
tip. I just don't get it. But
So, my next tip is from our episode on random everyday tips. It was episode number 11, and this one was much discussed. It's around how to get baked on food off of dishes. And this is a tip that I learned from my mother. It involves taking powdered dishwasher soap and sprinkling it in the dish that has the baked on food. Just sprinkle a little bit into it, put it in the sink, and just fill the dish up with hot water and let it soak for a few hours. And then you can just dump the water out and then put it in the dishwasher. If you're like me and you just put every single thing you can possibly put in the dishwasher rather than hand wash it, or you can hand wash it. But the powdered dishwasher soap is so concentrated that it'll help take off whatever is baked on. So I would suggest giving it a try. If it's something that has Tefal or a special coating on the
do
dishware,
not do it with a cast iron.
yes,
Don't do it with a cast iron. It will ruin it.
yes.
Any soap will ruin a cast iron pan.
It's like you're channeling Anthony Bourdain with this cast iron pan warning.
Yeah, it's funny. That's one of the things that he and Mark Maron had in common. They both just loved cast iron and seasoning it and just.
I hate cast iron pans. I hate it when you use it because it's so heavy and you just leave it there soaking with
Yeah,
water
well,
on the
you
stove
got those
for-
bags of chips in you, right? You open them upside down. It
Maybe
drives
there
me
won't be
nuts.
another episode of this.
Yeah, I quit. Screw this. Who are
Episode
you?
94. Jumping way ahead. This is when we recruited tips from our friends, particularly kitchen tips.
Oh yeah.
And we were struggling for
party
content
or
that
get
week.
together.
And yeah, there are no parties during
No.
a pandemic, but we did have a virtual party. And we asked our friends for their best tips. And this one came from our friend Janelle, and it's around pasta. So
yes.
everybody who has cooked pasta has probably experienced cooking far too much pasta, particularly spaghetti. I know I never cook the right amount.
It's hard to get the right amount.
Well, and I think people err on the side of caution and cook more than they need because it's not that expensive in terms of your overall ingredients for a meal.
Right.
But what she said you can do is everything that you have extra, even though it's already cooked, you can just throw it in a container and throw it into your freezer
Yep.
and freeze it. And then when you need to use it, you can just throw it in a pot of boiling water for just literally just a few seconds, and it'll be ready to go. So I love that tip.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And
That's a good one.
we're always working. I know Jeff and I are always working to just stop wasting food,
We're doing pretty good with that, actually.
We're getting better. We're getting better. So that's another way not to waste food.
That is a really good one.
Our third episode was around travel tips, and specifically travel tips to stay organized and safe. And so with that episode, I talked about one of my packing hacks, and it involves those little plastic bags with zippers on them that you get your sheets in, or the larger ones you get your comforters in. And they're the kind of thing when you pull out your sheets and you're like, this is an awesome bag with a zipper. What
am I going to do with it?
Yeah. What am I going to do with it? I can't throw this out.
I got to find some kind of use for it.
There's going to be a perfect use for this. Those, and particularly the larger ones, they are so great for compartmentalizing what you're packing in your suitcase. So if if multiple people are sharing a suitcase, or particularly if you have little ones with small clothes, you can just designate one of those bags. It's almost like vacuum sealing because you can really put a lot into one of those bags. And
then when you unpack it, it's just all in compartmentalized.
Well done.
I got it out.
Well done. Well, and they're clear, so you can see what is in what bag. And if you have your suitcase checked at customs, it makes it very easy for them to check and kind of keeps everything together. And it's just also if you've got shampoo or anything, liquid or lotions that you're transporting and you have a leak, it also keeps it contained within whatever bag you put it in. It doesn't
ruin your luggage.
So I actually have a great picture of how this works, and it's on our Instagram account. So be sure to check that out, and you can see how much you can fit into a suitcase. And we used it even when we were backpacking in Europe. It works really well for backpacks, and because backpacks are notoriously difficult to keep. You're always rooting around for things, so it's easy to just pull out a few of those. And
then didn't you have a hack too for like how to roll your clothing and stuff?
Yes. I mean, that's not one that I've come up with, but it's definitely a great way to save space, rolling up clothing. And I know when I had posted the photo of the zipped bags in the suitcase, someone said, oh, well, there are travel cubes that you can buy for that purpose. They're like a clear plastic bag, essentially the same thing. But to me, I'd rather reuse something that I already have.
Absolutely.
Rather than spend money on another thing to travel. And there's some heavy traffic going on. Hopefully the mic's not picking that up. It's a busy Saturday night in Uptown St. John. All right. The next one is the episode that Jeff recorded. Well, we both recorded it, but it's the one you researched. So it was Records 101. I thought it was the third. It's actually the fifth episode we did. And Jeff and I actually, we I guess went back in our catalog and listened to little tidbits of various episodes prepping for this one. And one of the tips that Jeff had is that you should keep a portion of your record collection close to the record player.
That's right.
For easy listening.
Yep.
And he actually said, only about 600 or 700 records.
That's true. It's true.
Keep them close to to the record player, and then switch them out once every few months with the rest of your stacks to get a fresh batch.
That's exactly. I haven't done that in a while though, but I should. I should take all the records that are like underneath the record player and put them back with the stacks, and then replace them with records from the stacks to get fresh music.
So if this gives you any indication of the volume of records we have, that 600 to 700 is a small portion, just for...
Got about 2,000 records.
Yeah.
The thing is that if I ever want to listen to something, I pretty much got it,
You got it, but can you find it?
That's the thing. That's a weird thing about me as a record collector that would absolutely drive most record collectors crazy,
or just about anybody.
They're not in any order. We tried that once, I remember. We worked at it for months. It felt like, anyways.
We did. We tried when you were in your apartment, and we tried it here, and
we put them all on Discogs. But I can pretty much find whatever I want to listen to.
Well, the alphabetization of it was pretty tricky. You're like, do you go by band name, album name, first name, last name?
Yeah, always last name.
Do you use the?
Yeah.
Dewey Decimal System.
Don't use the. I don't think.
Anyway.
That's a good question, though.
So that was the tip from that one.
Yeah.
And episode 12, we did a one for tips for helping those in hospital. I really like this one. It's not just for people in hospital, but I think it just makes sense for anybody, is to keep track of your own medical history. And this doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as, buying a journal specifically for that purpose. And when you have a doctor's appointment, an operation, a procedure, just jot it down. Jot down the date, the doctor, a few small details. Yeah. No, not what happened, just the date and the doctor, and then you try to guess the decade later. What happened at the doctor
today? Day one.
But I mean, when someone's in a hospital situation and they're in there for, it's especially important to understand all the different procedures being done, particularly if they're in a critical care.
Especially if you need to look back and know some of that information at a later date.
Well, and sometimes you're in a very high stress situation in the hospital with a loved one, so it can be hard to remember things even a few days later. But I think it's a great idea to track medical history just in general, and for yourself and for your kids. Like, for instance, I dislocated a hip when I was younger, and my parents and I can't remember which one it was, whether it was the left or the right.
Wow. How old were you when that happened?
We don't even remember that either.
Were you alive?
I think I was in grade 3 or 4.
That's funny.
But it just goes to show, like, if you're like, oh, there's a scar there, I wonder what surgery I had.
It's true. Or if you want to look back and remember what kind of medications that you had, like when you were in the hospital.
Well, definitely, if you had a bad reaction to something. Now, and the reason I say this is, and doctors, of course, keep their own medical records, but you don't always have those easily accessible. No. And they can be scattered. There may be records at the hospital, records with your family physician, so records for physiotherapy. Maybe you want to keep track of, your eye appointments and when those are due. So
that was a good tip.
I like that tip.
So many good tips.
It's a very important practical tip, I think. And
I think so as well.
And you can even, stick your vaccination record in that journal too.
Better than the other record tip, which was switch out your 600 records for another 600 records.
That was a great tip, honey. I'm not going to fault you that tip. Episode 55, we talked about tips for having a great morning. And this is something that I use myself. I'm an early riser. Not everybody is, but I like to get up early with the sun because I
am by force because of my work, but
and by life. Life makes us get out of bed sometimes. But one of the things that I do straight away is I always drink a full glass of water as soon as I get out of bed. And I think some point in my life, I heard that was a great thing to do because something about bacteria in your mouth and stomach and washing it through, and it's really good bacteria to move through your intestinal system, or maybe it's just flushing things out. But regardless, I always do that, and then I go straight to the washroom and I brush my teeth.
There you go.
And sometimes I'm half asleep, almost with my eyes still closed as I'm brushing my teeth. But I find once I brush my teeth, and
I am picturing this. This is great. So there you are with your eyes closed,
and I've got nice minty breath, and I'm okay, I'm up. Because the thing is, if you lay in bed and you think about it even for a few seconds,
and then boom,
you've hit the snooze button. You've already negotiated that you can stay in bed a little bit longer, or the thing is just bolt out of bed as soon as you
used to
wake
be
up.
so bad at that, hitting that snooze alarm.
I know.
Oh my goodness,
I was
me nuts. Every time it woke
way
me up
back
as well.
in my 30s.
Yeah, I know.
I would count it out. I was like, it's 7 minutes per snooze. How many times can I hit the snooze button? And I would purposely set my alarm earlier because it was just like a little gift to have that extra 7 minutes of sleep, in between.
See,
snoozes.
I'm the type that wakes up before my alarm goes off and then turns it off. And that's the thing, right? So.
All right. I'm giving you the death stare because you're swiveling.
I didn't know what that was. I'm like, okay, I won't talk about my alarm. Holy jeez.
Jeff's got the
There's no sound.
Chair.
There's no sound.
I know, but it could make a sound.
And if it does, I'll stop.
All right. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see if there's a squeak before the end of this episode.
Yeah. Sounds good. I gave you the death stare back.
I know.
We have to give our loyal listeners the play-by-play because they can't see us. Maybe that will be in our future. Maybe we'll do a video podcast.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
that will take a lot more prep. Jeff always has all these great ideas, and I'm the one who has to execute them.
I know.
So it's like,
what are some of my other great ideas? What? Oh yeah, all the merch to make, like hats and T-shirts and
we may still do some merch down the road. That's fun stuff.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, my next tip is from episode 33. It was how to talk to kids about difficult topics. We didn't do a whole lot of episodes on parenting, but that was one of them. I don't even remember this one. No, you don't remember a lot of them.
No,
I don't even know if you were here.
I'm a little older than you, honey.
This one was... It was so having difficult conversations. It's really simple. It was one of the tips was just to have it in the car. That if you're driving with your children, your teenagers, and you need to have a difficult conversation or you want to check in with them, a lot of times people will open up a little more.
You gotta make sure they're not on their switch, though.
Yes. They'll feel less self-conscious if you're not making direct eye contact.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're sitting down at dinner, and even though that's a great time to have conversation, sometimes looking, the parents in the eye can put kids a little bit on guard. So have the conversation in the car. It's a great time to get kids to open up, and
you're right. It is.
Maybe surprised at what you find out.
You're right.
Good, maybe
because
bad.
It's an indirect, and you're right. They're a little more open, I think, to share.
One of the random tips that I mentioned through multiple episodes was around just keeping a running travel list on your phone. So I always keep notes in the notes section of my phone, and I have a list for traveling specific. Well, I have one.
I'm very familiar with this list because you always have your iPad out, like as stuff are going out the door. I don't hope I didn't steal your.
No, not at all. No, I mean the notes. So the notes are on I have them on my iPad and my phone. And what it is really just a list.
Checklist.
It's a checklist. So rather than trying to sit down and generate a list every time you go on vacation about what to bring, we just have this running checklist that we go through. We have one for when we're traveling to a hot climate, because you do pack a little differently going to, say, a resort than you would if you were going to a city trip.
If you didn't have this list and if you didn't do this, we would show up in Thailand with parkas if I was responsible for this kind of stuff.
Are you making fun of me?
No, I'm just telling you. No, it really makes a lot of sense. But I'm just trying to, in my head, I'm trying to figure out, okay, you're not responsible for this, but I am. And let's look at my list. Let's see what my list has on it. We'd have 600 records coming to time. Just joking. I mean,
we would definitely get our luggage checked if that were the case.
It shows our different personalities, actually, that you do these lists for when we go away.
Well, if we were both doing lists, it would be just chaos.
Yeah.
We would be like, whose list are we going to follow? Whose list is the better list?
It's great. It's a great idea.
So one of the important things with this list, or what when you're coming back from a vacation, or if there's a flight involved and you're sitting on the plane, it's a great time to go through the list and say, you know what, these are the things I didn't use, and delete them off the list so you don't overpack next time.
Brilliant.
And keep bringing the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't need 6 sweaters in Cuba, so
no,
I will.
You will need one, though, even in the evenings in Cuba.
Unlike the vacation we took to Mexico and didn't realize that time of year how cold it got at night, so then we looked like scumbags because we had to wear the same.
We had to wear the same hoodie. I remember wearing the same hoodie
every night. And we met this other couple there. And
we were lucky, though.
We'd see them at dinner with the same. We'd always have the same clothes on at night.
The couple from Halifax.
Yes.
Crazy allergic reactions to pretty much everything. I remember.
Oh, I know. She's super nice, though.
Yeah, super nice. Crazy,
but
though.
Had a lot to deal with.
Didn't actually happen, though.
No.
It was just always there.
All right. So, this one's around Airbnbs. So, episode 54, and I'm mentioning the numbers just in case you're curious about more tips on that topic. Episode 54, we did 25 rapid-fire Airbnb tips. Mm-hmm. I love the rapid-fire episodes that we've done because
we should do another rapid-fire sometime soon in the podcast.
I mean, I should research one and we could do it.
Do you not like researching it?
I know, I love it. I love it. It's just
these jabs about me not researching.
No, it's all.
Do you want me to start researching? Is that what's going on here?
Do you want to try one?
I already did. Look how it turned out. Look at the tip you picked out from it.
The best tip.
The best tip from it is switch out your 600 records for another 600 records.
There was also something about putting your records in plastic sleeves.
Yeah, it does protect them from ringwear and stuff.
But it's kind of environmentally gauche now. Is that the right word?
Gauche? Maybe. I'll have to look that one up.
So my tip around Airbnbs is to check out the Google Map street view of the property. A lot of times when you're booking Airbnbs, obviously they're going to take the best photos of their building, and you don't really get a feel for the reality of it, and also what type of neighborhood it's
What's
in.
around it?
So
Yeah.
have a look. Google isn't using any kind of filters or making sure a property looks good. So they're just driving down the street with their Google mobile. Google mobile.
Google Mobile. And you might find out that there's like a huge high rise going up right next to it.
There you go.
If you look on
Well,
Google
it's
Maps.
and the map view might be from like 2016 or something. But anyways,
Remember when?
pay attention to the date stamp of the street view.
Do you remember when we looked at the street view for our property and I was getting out of our car?
Yes, for our
They actually
house, for our
caught me.
own home.
Yeah, I was literally getting out of the door of
That
our
whole,
car.
a lot of people I've heard have caught themselves on Google Street View. So
Yeah, it's funny.
It's kind of cool. We did an episode on Lyme disease, and particularly where we record out of St. John, New Brunswick in Canada, Lyme disease is very much a threat, a real thing in our area, carried by ticks. So we did an entire episode, everything you didn't want to know about Lyme disease, episode 27. And really the main tip I'm going to pull from that one is just check yourself for ticks. If you're out in a wooded area and you're in an area prone to Lyme disease, even since we've recorded that episode, I've learned of probably 3 other people I know who've contracted Lyme disease, and it can be
It's a
incredible.
lifelong
yes,
endeavor.
and can be quite devastating, and it's an ordeal to deal with. So I definitely wanted to mention that one. I also wanted to mention something funny that happened to Jeff this week when he was over at a local thrift store.
Oh yeah, that was weird. I decided to go on a really nice long walk, because I'm starting to get geared up for running again. And I walked over to this thrift store. It was probably about 5 kilometers from where we live. And I get in there and I'm looking, surprise, surprise, through the records. And I have my headphones in. I'm listening to music. And I see this guy running around yelling something, but I can't hear it because I'm listening to music. And so I take my headphones out and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, get out of here. There's a fire. Everybody get out. There's a fire behind the building. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Or he's like, everybody must be evacuated. And I'm like, all right. But the funny thing is as I'm leaving, there's a couple people waiting in line. And one of these guys, he's kind of like, he's going to get long hair and kind of hippie looking guy. And I just hear him say as I'm leaving, he's like, "Hey, is it okay if I just take this?" So he wanted what he was waiting to buy. He wanted it for free as he was waiting in line. But because there was a fire, he thought, by default, it's mine. It's mine now. I just found that so funny.
It's going to burn anyway.
You laughed so hard when I told
know.
you that story.
And the guy told him to take it, didn't he? He said
Yeah. The guy was like, I don't care. Just do it.
It'd be funny if he did that, and then everybody just started looting.
Yeah.
Running into the building instead of running out.
Like,
it
just ended up being a small grass fire behind the building, and nothing was, no harm, no foul. But anyway, it was just a funny thing.
I love that one. Another one of the tips that we had was just around thinking, speaking of thrift shops, episode 49, we talked about 20 ways to simplify your home. And one of the ideas that we implement here is we have a box that's just an ongoing donation box. So rather than have a time where you walk through your house and try to declutter and figure out what to donate, or, figure out which clothes are too small for your kids. We just have an ongoing box that we just throw things in. And that way, when we're ready to go out and drop off our donations in 3 years, well, we have the whole box already.
The funny thing is, though, is we have a box like that for toys. And it's been hidden in this spare room for the longest time. But our little guy recently found it and started going through it and then keeping stuff because he forgot he even owned it.
I know.
It had been years. Like I don't know where do you take used toys?
Well, we found a few places.
Anyway.
And there are places to take it better than a landfill.
Find a spot.
So, we covered just a few, but with 99 episodes before this one, we have a whole catalog of tips and...
Do we have to do a part 2?
No.
Okay, we got them all?
We can't do a part 2 on the 100th episode.
Oh, yeah,
That would be
100
strange.
episode part 2.
But you know what? With 101, we are going to be a little more streamlined, a little more curated in our content. We're still definitely going to do some bonus episodes because we love to just talk about topics we're interested in. We don't want to be too constrained, but we're going to have our weekly episodes be a little bit more themed. So make sure you tune in for episode 101 to find out what that theme will be.
And we want to take this opportunity to thank every single person who has listened to any of our podcasts, any of our tips, any of our crazy episodes. Thank you so much. You mean the world to us. And we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for listening. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.
And remember, you can catch up on past episodes at InfoQuench.com.
Or just about anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And help spread the word about InfoQuench.
Till next time.